right. Okay. So we shall continue with some more Buddhism here. Sharing the screen. Over here. Right? Share. And there we go. Buddhism. Ha 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 ha. Yay, yay, yay. Okay, so now let me just think. I'm going to expand the screen. Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, this is all quite a learning. It's awkward, all this sort of stuff. So I had posted on, I did it on the Facebook Live because did it on a whiteboard, and I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm hoping it worked, and you got a link to going through the marks of existence. Okay, that's the first key doctrine of Buddhism. Okay, the doctrine of impermanence, no soul, and suffering. Really important stuff. Okay, and then I also did a little video on doctrine of dependent co-origination. Okay, and when I talked about no soul and impermanence and nirvana and whatnot, I then discussed how Siddhartha taught he presented the middle way, neither eternalism nor annihilationism, excuse me, and how he saw the self made up of the 5 skandhas. They're basically heaps or parts, components that make up the self. Physical form, feelings and sensations, perceptions, volition or the will, and karmic accumulation is tied in with that, and consciousness. And those are the 5 things that make up the self, like parts put together, and then at death they cease to exist. None of them are permanent, he held. Okay, he held none of them are permanent and continue on. And then rebirth is understood not as a reincarnation of the soul, transmigration of a soul, as you have in Hinduism. Okay, that's not what's understood here by Siddhartha. He rejected the concept of soul, right? And also of Brahman, a supreme being. That's the essence and source of the universe. He rejected those ideas. He held that rebirth is a matter of karmic causal connection between one life and the next. That one life causes another life to come into being. That's how rebirth is understood by Siddhartha, okay, the founder of Buddhism. And with that, let me just mention here, a metaphor that gets used in Buddhism is that of a candle with a flame. And so you've got a lit candle here with a flame, and then say, here's another candle that's not lit up yet. Okay, so he's saying karma of this one life is like that fire on top of that candle. And that fire lights and ignites another candle to, come alive and be on fire. But yet, that fire on that first candle is still there. It's not like a substance of the fire hopped over to light the next candle. Okay, so this is likewise, there's no soul that hops over from one life to another life. But instead, it's the karma of one life that causes a second life to come into being, to get ignited. Okay, it's the cause that ignites another life to come into being. Right? And there's no transfer of a substance like a soul from one life to the next that brings it into being. You guys with me? I hope you get that. Okay. And that's why nirvana is blow out the candle. Okay. You blow out the candle. It becomes extinguished. And I want to say you cease to exist, but yet Siddhartha didn't say annihilationism. You cease to exist. But yet he also didn't say that you continue to exist. Right? So you get this ambiguity. Is like, well, what is it then? It's totally different from what we usually think. Totally different kind of ball game. All right. And exactly what that is, he says, well, you can't understand it if you're still unenlightened here in the realm of samsara. Okay. So, and I need to I need to put it on another slide and type it in first. Yes, because what this brings up is something I didn't put in there. And maybe I'll do this on the live session. Okay, I'll talk about pari-nirvana versus nirvana. All right, remind me, any of you, okay, to do that. All right, when we're live on Mondays. Okay, to talk about the difference between nirvana and pari-nirvana. Okay. So anyway, so I kind of did all of that. Ta-di-da-pi-doo. So now what I want to talk about here, and we talked about pure mindfulness, pure equanimity when I talked about the life of the Buddha when he became enlightened. And the word for enlightenment is bodhi, which means enlightenment. And enlightenment causes and creates, removes ignorance, and therefore brings about nirvana. So nirvana, attaining nirvana, is a result of having become enlightened. They're not equated. Bodhi means enlightened. Ignorance is removed. When that ignorance is removed and I've become enlightened, to become enlightened is the cause that produces the effect, the result of nirvana. I am set free from rebirth. I am set free from suffering. Okay, no more suffering, no more rebirth. Right? No more suffering now, and no more suffering ever in the future, because there's no more rebirth. Right? So that's nirvana. Okay, so enlightenment, bodhi, enlightenment creates, causes, brings into being the state of nirvana. And nirvana is more a state of being than it is a place you go to. Okay, most people think of it as a place you go to. It's more of a state of being that is acquired. It's quite a different category of thought, actually. It's a state of being, but yet we think of being that's always just in this bodily form. But nirvana is a state of being that even goes beyond this bodily form. But so it's something totally different. Okay, but it's not like a heaven. People tend to think of, I get to nirvana, it's like a place I go to, like heaven. It really wasn't understood that way or meant that way by Siddhartha. The realms of heavens are in this realm of samsara, as I mentioned in the that other video, dependent co-origination, where I talked about the realms of rebirth. All right, so it's not about getting up into heaven. Later Buddhism, they're going to come up with that idea. Okay, now this is why you need to have a text that you're reading, so you don't get confused by your professor and all this stuff, because there's just so many teachings and ideas. And I'm sorry, but I find it really awkward teaching like this, where it's not live in class, where I can have a full whiteboard, lots of space, lots of room to fully explain myself for 3 hours, really go through and answer questions and make sure you connect this with that, right? So this piecemeal kind of putting it together, I find it really awkward. Anyways, to continue though. So I just want to make sure I cover everything, because there's always so much, and we're just getting started. So here now, I want to go on to Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, so basically, and this is the simple stuff, and usually when somebody teaches on Buddhism, they just give you the Four Noble Truths. Whoop-de-ding, that's very simple. But you don't understand really how does this work and what does this really all mean, right? But this is what basically the Four Noble Truths are. That number one, life is suffering. That's where Buddhism begins. It begins with the empirical human experience, and existential reality of that life contains and entails suffering. Okay. And suffering, that means, in a sense, constant frustrations. There's constant frustrations. Drama is not like total peace and well-beingness constantly. Like, no, it's only temporary. And you can be guaranteed that if you're happy today, unhappiness will come tomorrow at some point. Okay, it doesn't last. So yeah, number one, it's inevitable that you will experience suffering, it says here. Number two, there's a cause, there's a reason, there's a source for this suffering. Okay, there's a cause for it. Number three, generally it's how the cause is our desire, our wanting. Okay. The third is that, well, if there's a cause for the suffering, then it's possible to remove the cause. So that means you could, eliminate it and stop it and bring an end to suffering. Okay. So if there's a cause, that means it's possible to have a solution to the problem, to remove it. Okay. Remove the suffering. Okay. Have it be undone. Okay, that the cessation, the ending of suffering is possible. And number four, that the way to do that is through the Noble Eightfold Path. That is the how to attain the removal of suffering. And so Siddhartha, how he presented himself is he's here to bring medicine, the medicine to end suffering. That's what it's about. Don't ask him about, well, how did the universe come into being? Is there a God or not? And, what is this God? One God, many God? Where does God come from? How did it all start? Why are we even here? He says, I don't answer any of those questions. I just focus on bringing medicine to stop suffering. End of story. So the metaphor that's always used in Buddhism here for that, what Siddhartha presented, the stories, in his teachings, it's presented that he said, it's like somebody who's going through the woods and they then get shot get an arrow put into them because somebody was hunting and thought he was an animal, and shoots him with an arrow, and he's there in pain. He's got this arrow in him. So the Buddha is like somebody going there to rescue this person, and he's not going to start saying, I wonder who shot the arrow. Why would they have shot the arrow? What is the arrow made of? And well, I wonder what the end point of this is. They don't go and start philosophizing as to, well, why is there this arrow? Where did the arrow come from? What is it made from? Who on earth shot it? And why did they do it? And why did this happen? And what's the meaning of this? It's like, no, he doesn't waste his time. You've got an arrow in you. You need medicine. You need medical attention now. I'm going to just pull that arrow out and stop the suffering. End of story. And so the Buddha presented the sense that this is what he's here to do, to bring the medicine to end suffering. End of story. He doesn't go into philosophical speculation about, how did we even get here? Why do we even suffer? Is there a God or not? Whatever. It's like, no, he doesn't even bring it up. Okay. So that's the response here of Siddhartha to those sorts of questions. Okay. All right. So then the way to end the suffering is through the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay. And this is a classic symbol of Buddhism, is the wheel here. And these spokes of the wheel are sort of represent the journey to bringing you to enlightenment, right? This is the pathway of ending the suffering. And you'll see be some differences here where I like to start, like how these 8 components, they get put into 3 categories: morality, concentration, and wisdom. And some people in some texts, depending on who it is, will begin with wisdom, right views, understanding, or right intentions, right thoughts. I like to start it more with morality: right speech, right action, right livelihood. Okay, you can see those 3 there on the lower right. Right speech, right action, right livelihood. Because it's sort of like, that's very practical where you start. So you start with right speech, where you do not lie, you do not speak negatively of people, slander, put them down, gossip. Okay, you guard your speech. Right, that's where you begin, is what comes out of your mouth. Okay, in terms of morality and commitment to the path. And then right action, you do not harm any living being. So your action is, you don't steal, you don't cheat, you don't create riots and burn down buildings and destroy people's homes or businesses. You don't go swearing and cursing people and spewing hatred, right? You guard your speech, you guard your action. You do not harm any living beings, and you do not do anything that's negative and harmful to others. And then, of course, what's tied in with that is right livelihood, the occupation that you take on in life. And so with right livelihood, that means you don't engage in any occupation that involves harming of any life. So that means you would not be a rancher raising cattle that would be slaughtered for food. Okay. So also part of right action in people, and I'm sure how they would live, is they'd be vegetarian. Buddhists are largely vegetarians. So you don't kill any animals. You wouldn't be a fisherman, a hunter, or anything like that. You wouldn't work with leather because you're, again, working with dead animal products, and that's seen as somewhat negative. You wouldn't be selling alcohol. You wouldn't be selling weapons or drugs that are harmful, or poisons or chemicals that are harmful. You wouldn't be a soldier. Okay, and sign up to be a soldier somewhere. So as a whole, your livelihood is one that, of course, don't be a crook or a criminal making money. Proper livelihood. Okay, so here it's committed to goodness and not harming any living beings is a key thing. Okay. Then you move on to concentration. Now this is where you start to work on the mind. Right effort. Right effort is you start to control what goes on up here. So you want to take on the path of the method of purifying your mind. Purifying your mind. So you start observing your thoughts. Is this a negative thought? Any kind of negative thoughts that come up, you purify your mind. You remove negative thoughts, and you try to encourage positive thoughts. Okay, only think good things of people instead of thinking, oh, what a schmuck, idiot, da 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 da, or you're jealous, like, oh, look at her, yeah. You don't do that. You think well of people. You think positive thoughts about people. Okay, so you want to start purifying your mind, removing evil thoughts, negative thoughts, thoughts of depression, hopelessness, right? And instead, positive thoughts of faith and hope and optimism, for example, even there. Okay, so that's what right effort is about. It's just starting to observe and purify your mind. All right, to shun evil, do good, get rid of the negative, and only think good things and do good things. And then you go into right mindfulness, and this is mindful awareness meditation. You want to become aware of your breathing, okay, and you begin just becoming aware of your breath coming into your body, aware maybe of your heartbeat, aware of physical sensations, okay, and be aware of when you're walking step by step. It becomes a type of meditation, aware of each step that you take. And so you just become aware of things physically, your breath, your body, physical sensations. Then you move on to awareness of your feelings and your states of being, okay, and observing that and just becoming mindful of that. Then you become more mindful of your thoughts, okay, and just aware of what you think and focus it more, your thoughts on the teachings of Siddhartha, the teachings of the Buddha, okay, and meditate more and focus more on Buddhist teachings. And then from there, you go into more specific forms of meditation, really focused, concentrated meditations. And it's really, again, there'll be all kinds of teachings about this. And as you progress in meditation, with hours long of meditation, okay, that your goal is, again, going to be seeking enlightenment. And as you progress in your practice of meditation, it should then birth in you, all right, and create a transformation, have the effect of bringing you into the last bit of wisdom, which involves the right views and understanding and the right intentions or right thoughts. And so what that means, right, views and understanding deals with the mind, that eventually through the practice of all this, in terms of morality and meditation, committed to goodness and focusing on the truth in your meditation, that will then bring you into a state of enlightenment. You'll then come into the right thought, the right the right views. You'll have the right perspective, the right understanding. You'll finally see the truth about life and reality. Ideally, you become enlightened, and then you become wise, wisdom. You'll have the right understanding, the right view, perspective on things, right, of the mind. And then ignorance is removed. You become enlightened. That then transforms your being more in your heart, so that then you'll always have the right intention in whatever you'll do. You'll have the right motivation. You'll have the right thoughts of compassion. Okay, and that's why it's wisdom and compassion, the mind and the heart. You become enlightened up here, a transformation. You see the truth. It transforms you deeper at the heart level of who you become. You become then a being of compassion for others. You'll only have thoughts, intentions of loving kindness, metta, loving kindness towards others. Okay. And so that's where there's then a transformation of your being, right, in terms of wisdom and compassion, the mind, the heart. Enlightenment effects a transformation of your whole being, right? That's sort of the idea that's kind of conveyed through this. So through the Noble Eightfold Path, all right, by engaging in these practices, it's meant to bring you to enlightenment that transforms you. And then it removes all karma of like, oh, I'm afraid of this. I don't want this. Oh, I want this. It's all self-centered. Okay? It's all self-centered about a belief about me and my fears and my grasping and my wanting. It's like, that's gone. Instead, you're a being just, you think of the well-beingness of others. You only think good things. You don't have the ego sense of, what did you do to me? Oh, I'm going to get back at you. I hate you, and I'm wrought revenge, and I'm going to be at war with you, and all that stuff that comes from your sense of identity here, as quote Linda Christensen or whoever, right? That is always at battle, at war, defense, attack, wanting, and afraid, and hating. It's like all that's gone, right? Because there is no sense of self here that you're attached to, and instead it's you're freed from all that drama, and you're just a being committed to the well-beingness of all life. Okay, a being of compassion, loving kindness, just having good intentions. Right? And this transformation is affected. So this is sort of the idea here of coming into enlightenment in Buddhism. Okay. So I think I am ending that here at this point, and then I'll go more into the history of things after this and new developments. I think I pretty much have covered everything. Okay. All right. So I'll end there. Okay. Let me just end this.